The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is hit with a cyber attack.
Yeah, I'm not surprised of any breaches anymore. They happen daily.
What church members need to know about the security of their information.
A racist sign is left here at a home in West Valley City that strangely mentions a Utah House candidate from nowhere near West Valley City. We talked with the candidate and the person who found the sign.
In a bold move, the January 6th committee subpoenaed Donald Trump to testify. But will he comply? I'm Caroline Shively in Washington. I'll have that story coming up.
If you look around Utah, you might be surprised about the difficulties to access the outdoors. How community groups are helping Latinos get easier access to nature and outdoor activities.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
First on Fox 13 News, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints revealed today a cyber attack earlier this year accessed the personal data of some church members and employees.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree joins us live from Temple Square in downtown Salt Lake tonight. Jenna, what do church members need to know?
That's right. Church officials say that attack in late March did not access donation history or bank information. But one cybersecurity expert we spoke with says there are still steps church members can take and should take to protect their information.
I'm not too surprised. Happens all the time.
The LDS Church's data breach doesn't worry Roderick Buehler, a professor of cybersecurity at Salt Lake Community College, too much.
To me, it's not a bad breach. All of our data is on the dark web. All of it. It's already there. They're just getting more data to match up with that. And our data is already out there. It's not like it's a secret.
The attack was not made public until today, even though it happened back in March. In a statement, the church said, quote, "We immediately notified federal law enforcement authorities in the United States and were asked to keep the incident confidential to protect the integrity of the investigation."
Sometimes you don't want to tell people that you're on to them. You want to kind of track them a little bit and see if you can figure out who they are. I don't think that hurt us any.
Buehler says if hackers are getting church members' passwords, they might try to use them to log into other sites, like bank accounts.
When people ask me, the first thing I tell them to do is freeze your credit. Because when they gather all that information about you, they're going to figure out whether or not they can come take your money.
Law enforcement thinks the possibility of the data breached being used to harm people is low.
They're just going to happen. Anything that man can build, man can break.
Anyone who is impacted by the attack will be alerted by church officials. But Buehler says this incident is still a good reminder to all of us. Change our passwords and don't use the same password for all of your accounts. Reporting live in Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A man wanted on warrants out of Utah has been arrested in Vermont and is considered a person of interest in a double homicide case there. It was police in South Burlington, Vermont. They arrested this man, 26-year-old Logan Clegg, yesterday. Police say Clegg, who is homeless, is being held on a probation violation for several burglary and theft charges in Cache County dating back to August of 2020. However, the New Hampshire Attorney General's office says Clegg is a person of interest in the murder of Stephen and Wendy Reed, a retired couple who were shot and killed back in April. Today, Clegg appeared in a Vermont court where a judge and Clegg's counsel argued over whether or not he should be held behind bars without bail.
Under the laws of the state of Utah, the court has an obligation to impose bail in an amount that will deem proper for his future appearance. There is no legal basis to hold him without bail at this point.
Well, except he's a fugitive. That is a pretty strong basis.
The Vermont judge ruled Clegg will be withheld without bail. The New Hampshire Attorney General's office says that while Clegg is a person of interest, no one has been arrested or charged for the Reed's homicides.
2 men are in critical condition after a shooting in Uintah County this morning. Sheriff's deputies say they got a report at about 8 of a shooting at a residence in the Sunridge subdivision in Mazer. When they arrived, they found 2 men with gunshot wounds. The sheriff's office says there is no threat to the public. What led to the shooting is under investigation. A West Valley City woman is looking for answers after waking up to find a defaced poster in front of her house.
The sign had a racial slur with a swastika and the phrase "Vote Trevor Lee," a Utah House representative candidate who's running nowhere near West Valley City.
Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph joins us live from West Valley City tonight with this strange story. Spencer.
Good evening to you both. Behind me is the West Valley City community where this woman says she found it. Now, I spoke with her as well as that candidate. Both of them condemn the racial language used on that poster, but they took it a step further, also saying they both hope that the person that did this gets caught.
I actually found the sign this morning about 8 a.m. when I went out to do part of my workout in my backyard, and I actually only saw the back side at first.
Attached to her gate in her front yard, Deborah Gatrell says she made a disturbing discovery.
Saw the other side facing the elementary school where it said, it had the stenciled Nazi swastika, and then it had the stenciled N-word on it, and scrawled in black paint KKK and "Vote Trevor Lee." I was pretty mad. Like, who would put that on my fence?
The words written over a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Posting it on Twitter, lots of people reacted and shared.
First of all, it's super offensive. It's incredibly racist. And I don't even live in Trevor Lee's district.
What would your message be to the person who did this?
Well, first, I hope they get caught. I really hope everyone in this neighborhood has a camera or a Ring camera or something where they can go out and find who did this.
Trevor Lee says he saw that tweet too and was caught off guard.
Let me look and see where this is at. West Valley is almost 35 to 40 minutes from my area. I think for the most part, a lot of my supporters, if not all of them, live here.
Gatrell says she's been critical of Lee and supports his opponent, writing candidate Steve Handy, which is why she thinks she may have been a target to place the sign.
I hope that in condemning the placement of the sign and hoping people get caught, that he'll maybe go a step further and actually disavow the very specific message and the violence associated with that.
His response to the situation was this.
Of course I'm against it. I'm against all types of racism, against those derogatory terms. I think it's horrible. I'm not a perfect person, but I always try to make sure that I move on and get better and become a better person with stuff. But something on that end, I've never done anything close to that. I mean, that's horrible.
And while it's strange, the sign was disturbing to both. And the question of who and why remains.
Like, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone feel comfortable doing that? I think that's a question that we need to reflect on as a larger community and as a state.
I think it's horrible. Like, it's disgusting, and it needs to stop. And to try to trace it back to me or put my name on something is even worse because it's fraudulent, it's not real. It's trying to draw attention away from the stuff that matters.
The West Valley City Police Department is who we reached out to because they would be the one investigating this case. We have not heard back from them yet. We're not even sure if they're aware of this, but we have reached out to them to see if they will be investigating this. So far, we have not heard back. For now, live in West Valley City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Spencer, thank you. We have breaking news from North Carolina, where authorities say 5 people, including an off-duty police officer, were shot and killed in a residential area of Raleigh tonight. Media outlets are reporting the suspect has been arrested. We're still gathering information about this story, and we'll keep you updated as we learn more.
In a surprise move, the January 6th committee voted today to subpoena former President Donald Trump about the attack on the Capitol last year. Just an hour later, President Trump let loose with a barrage of social media posts insulting the committee, but he did not say no to testifying.
Fox's Caroline Shively has the details from Washington.
A source tells Fox News Digital that former President Trump loves the idea of testifying before the House Select Committee, but the source says it's unclear if he'd actually go through with it.
The resolution is agreed to.
In a unanimous vote on Thursday, the January 6th committee subpoenaed former President Donald Trump, saying he is the central cause of the Capitol riot, and they want to hear from him under oath.
We are obligated to seek answers directly from the man who set this all in motion.
The committee also showed never-before-seen footage of congressional leaders making call after call to law enforcement that day.
They're breaking windows and going in, obviously ransacking our offices and all the rest of that.
The leaders were huddled in nearby Fort McNair while insurrectionists attacked police and hunted for members of Congress and Vice President Mike Pence still on the Capitol grounds. An hour after the subpoena vote, Trump posted social media messages calling the committee a bust. And while he didn't rule out going under oath, time is running out. If Republicans take control of the House in January, it will be the end of the committee.
They needed something to end with because this is the end. There's no way Trump is ever actually going to testify.
If President Trump doesn't comply with the subpoena, technically the committee could ask the full House to hold him in contempt of Congress, and the Justice Department could choose to prosecute. But it's unclear if it would ever get that far. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A Utah man and his son have pleaded guilty to a crime stemming from the Capitol insurrection. Bradley Bukowski of Eagle Mountain admitted today to a misdemeanor count of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in the U.S. Capitol. His son Matthew pleaded guilty to the same charge. He lives in Chicago, however. An FBI affidavit says the pair entered the Capitol on January 6, 2021. The son posted about it on social media. They are not accused of violence or vandalism and do remain free. Sentencing is scheduled for January 17th. 10 Utahns have been charged with crimes related to the riot. 7 have pleaded guilty. The rest are awaiting trial.
Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz avoided the death penalty in a Florida courtroom this afternoon. Cruz pleaded guilty last October to killing 14 students and 3 school staff members at Florida's Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in February of 2018. Today, a jury ruled that Cruz will be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, much to the shock and anger of some victim family members.
I sent my daughter to school and she was shot 8 times. I am so beyond disappointed and frustrated with this outcome. I do not understand. I just don't understand this.
You set a precedent for the next mass killing, and nothing happens to you. You'll get life in jail.
Cruz is now set to be formally sentenced November 1st.
I'm Brian Schnee. The challenge is facing some members of the Latino community here in Utah and what community members are doing to help fill the void.
People in Centerville are trying to figure out what to do next after a deadly fire forced them from their condos. What we're learning about the aftermath of this blaze.
And Utah lawmakers come together to explore solutions to save the Great Salt Lake. The top ideas discussed today.
The Utah football team will continue to honor Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe. We'll hear from the team on what it'll feel like to wear those helmets against USC.
We had a beautiful day on Thursday. We started off with cold temperatures, but it warmed right up into the 70s. We've got more beautiful weather for the whole weekend. Your forecast coming up.
Since the last census, Utah's Hispanic Latino population has grown in nearly every county. Statewide, it has increased from about 14 to 15%. While the Latino community is growing, Statista.com, a data analysis site, says the average household income for Hispanics of any race in the U.S. is just shy of $58,000. For white non-Hispanic households, the average income is about $71,000. That difference in income can have surprising consequences. Kelly?
Bob, while it is that time of year when many of us are getting outside to see the beautiful fall colors and experience the changing of the seasons, it may be out of reach for some Utahns. Fox 13 News anchor Brian Schnee spoke to members of the Latino community here in Utah about their access to the outdoors, what it looks like, and what it could look like if more were involved.
It's interesting because we spoke to a number of people ranging from local nonprofit groups to advocates for conservation to a high school junior who just wants to get more Latinos involved. All of these groups were part of the Latino community here in Utah, and they delivered a similar message. They're Utahns, and they're trying to find more ways to come together as one.
Growing up in Southern California, I think it was a big shift coming from there to states like Utah, where I was like, oh, where is everyone? Because it's a whole new city. You have to start looking for your pockets of community.
Whether it's a city, or a bird lover's paradise.
I think birds are really easy to see compared to some other animals.
Everyone wants to find their place.
We have California quail that are wild, and they have a whole train of little babies that like to go through the bushes here.
But instead of perhaps feeling out of place, Frances Go and her colleagues at the Tracy Aviary decided to do something to welcome more visitors from Latino communities.
We established a Latino task force to help our conservation and education department to sort of figure out where are some spots we could be improving, what sort of educational programs are more relevant to our Latinx members, and how can we become more accessible and welcoming.
They're trying to create programs at the Tracy Aviary that are more culturally inclusive and relevant.
So I feel like for Latinos, at least here in Utah, it's a little bit harder to work in nature or outdoors programs, not because we don't want to, but also because we don't have the resources or the communication.
To some, it might sound easy to hop in the car and head out for a hike, but that's not always the case.
Transportation is certainly one of them, and then another one is what's called the nature gap.
The nature gap refers to areas deprived from easy access to nature, which, if you look around at the landscape here in Utah, you might even be surprised that it impacts communities here.
It's truly concerning why there isn't the opportunities for people of color. Also, low-income residents are really impacted with the inability to benefit from the natural world on a day-to-day basis.
It's why local groups like Artes de Mexico in Utah are working so hard to create opportunities.
I love Utah. I love the landscape. I love the mountains. I love the people. The people has been really nice to me personally. I love the outdoors.
Wendy says there's still more work to be done when it comes to getting more involvement from the Latino community in the outdoor realm, whether it be recreation, education, or conservation.
Sometimes the language can be a barrier. People is learning. I am still learning, pardon my accent.
Her hope for the growth in outdoor presence is from youth groups.
I go out hiking, we all should. It's very fun. It brings a nice inner peace into me.
Groups like Latinos in Action, which is how we met Giovanni, a high school student from Kearns.
The thing is, sometimes we're afraid of what people think of us. We're afraid to be judged. We're afraid to be called out on something that's actually normal,
He and his peers joined other groups recently for some conservation work, working on a stream restoration project just outside of Harriman in the Oakers. Giovanni's wish that day was to make the area better than it was before.
I really hope this inspires other people. That's my main goal.
But it was also a way to expose more Latinos to the outdoors.
It's really important, because I've noticed that most of us are just stuck in our screens all day long. Just computer screens, TV screens, and I just really want us to come outside together once again. Not just us Latinos, but just our whole community, is just everybody.
The big takeaway, some Utah Latinos face issues with transportation, costs, and most importantly, a language barrier for some, or the feeling of belonging. That's where a lot of these groups come together and have been trying to push for more involvement from the Latino community and other diverse groups here in Utah. To learn more about how to get involved, you can always check out our website, fox13now.com. Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, Utah's Latino community often intersects with other ethnic groups. Brian also spoke with a member of a local group focusing on a similar movement within the Black community.
One of the reasons why it's not happening is I just think cultural competency, infrastructure, and a feeling of, belonging and welcoming is still, trying to be planted.
Well, the group Outdoor Afro works together with a lot of the Latino focus groups mentioned in Brian's piece. Ashley, who you just heard from, says the goal is to change the narrative that Black people aren't outdoorsy people. She also agrees that more synced up transportation opportunities need to exist from urban areas to popular recreation sites.
The westbound lanes of U.S. Highway 6, about 3 miles east of Spanish Fork, are back open now after a crash that closed it for more than an hour. The Utah Highway Patrol says 2 pickup trucks and a semi-truck were involved in that crash. One person, we are told, has minor injuries. UDOT is telling drivers to expect delays and recommended, at least earlier, recommended finding an alternate route, but we are told again that the westbound lanes of U.S. Highway 6 east of Spanish Fork are back open again now. Dina.
Of course, lots of people using that route, US 6 there to get down to Moab and lots of other popular locations. It is a beautiful evening outside. Lots of city lights to look at. And of course, if you get up above with the drone, you can look down below at the fabulous fall color. Here's a great shot from Scott Taylor in Mill Creek Canyon today. You can see some of those new bike lanes there in Mill Creek. What a great picture. Of course, if you want to share pictures with us of the fall color, you can go to our Facebook page at Utah's Weather Authority. It started off pretty cold this morning. Low temperatures were in the 40s in Salt Lake, even in the 30s in Provo, and then it got a lot warmer. We hit around 74 degrees today. The average high is 67, so it's really just been about picture perfect with those warm temperatures in the 70s. 60s now in Salt Lake is 62 here, 56 in Harriman, in the 40s, cooling off fast with the clear skies at Alta, 51 in Manti, and 78 degrees in St. George this evening. Satellite imagery, not a whole lot of action, and we're zooming out and go to the west. Wow, just a lot of nothing. We have high pressure around, and when you have that, you just don't get a lot of action, so it limits the cloud cover, and that's what we're seeing. Now, the second half of the weekend, so starting on late Saturday into Sunday, we'll see some enhanced cloud cover in southern Utah and the Arizona border. Now, tonight with a clear sky, should be a really pretty evening. 49 in Salt Lake, 48 in Provo, and 56 in St. George, so a nice night and a gorgeous Friday. 76 degrees in Salt Lake, 88 in St. George, 73 in Price, and 79 degrees in Moab. Tomorrow's going to be a great day, a good start to the weekend. Temperatures stay in the upper 80s all weekend long in southern Utah there, and lots of sunshine for you at lows in the 50s. And for the Wasatch Front, we've got our highs in the 70s all the way through the weekend and next week.
Thanks so much, Dina. Straight ahead, it has now been 2 weeks since Hurricane Ian devastated parts of Florida. Tonight, some Utah first responders are now back home. Hear about what they witnessed firsthand.
And he's sharing his love of basketball with young Utah girls. We'll take you to a special clinic in Lehigh featuring a new Utah Jazz star.
Well, 2 weeks since their deployment, members of Utah Task Force 1, they're back home after supporting FEMA efforts in Florida. The Utahns on the ground were primarily in the Fort Myers area, a devastated area of Florida. They worked to make sure all crews, including search and rescue teams, had the gear they needed.
So lots and lots of activity from various agencies and various partners trying to get life back to some semblance of normal for the citizens of Lee County.
Clint Meekum, who you just heard from, says one of the most impressive things he saw was how agencies from across the country came together to help in the crisis.
It was the ladies' turn today. Colin Sexton, one of the new Utah Jazz players and Jazz youth coaches, took part in day one of an all-female youth basketball clinic in Lehigh. It was part of the Junior NBA Week and Her Time to Play initiatives. Sexton says he didn't get to participate in camps and clinics like these when he was young. He says that's a big reason he's so glad to give back and share his love of basketball.
I was smiling from ear to ear right when I walked in, just because of the energy and how they welcomed me, and that's something that I always wanted to do when I was younger, and now I have the opportunity and the platform to do it, so I really appreciate that.
Sexton says the most memorable moment for him today was the chance to sign autographs and encourage girls at the clinic to follow their dreams.
Utahns may have to do more with less water as the Great Salt Lake continues to shrink.
Displaced residents returned to the scene of a fatal fire at a Centerville condominium.
We've got severe smoke damage and soot on the walls and furniture.
What we've learned about how it happened.
A beloved family dog is killed by an animal the neighbors weren't expecting to be aggressive. Coming up, the warning from its owners.
BYU quarterback Jaron Hall was banged up against Notre Dame, so how does he feel this week? He'll tell us coming up in sports.
A Bountiful family is mourning the loss of their dachshund tonight. It died after being attacked in their front yard by a deer.
And this was not the first time a fatal deer attack has happened this year. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke to the dog's owners, who have a warning for other families with young children and pets.
This stare down between a deer and a dachshund marks the final moment before everything changed.
I always had in my mind that she would just die of old age, that she would just be done one day, and not in a million years did I ever think that it was going to be a deer attacking her.
Lacey Randall and her family were in their Bountiful home last week while their 15-year-old dog Bella was wearing her leash in the front lawn doing her nightly business.
She had laid back kind of in the defense mode, laying on her back, and the deer just was whacking her with its hooves.
Despite the pain, Bella still wagged her tail, trying to keep her spirits, but the vet said the injuries were too much.
We could try and do surgery and we could try and fix her, but she probably wouldn't even last a surgery.
Similar deer attacks happened this summer in Sandy. Tiggs, the Yorkie poo, was trampled in his backyard, and a neighboring Shih Tzu, Grizz, barely survived.
I don't want to hurt the deer, but then on the other hand, I'm like, well, this can't keep happening.
The city of Bountiful received a lot of complaints about deer and enrolled in the Division of Wildlife Resources program to remove deer to control the population. That started in July 2021 and will go through July of next year.
I definitely have shared my story with everybody on the street who has even just little toddlers that are just playing in their front yard.
From fun car rides to begging for food or getting in the holiday spirit, the Randalls will cherish the 15 years with Bella. They'll just never look at deer the same.
I walked by them and I saw them, and there was like a little, ugh. When I saw them, and I've never felt like that before now.
In Bountiful, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Wow. Now to an update on breaking news we brought you last night. A woman is dead. Several people were forced for their homes as well after a fire at a Centerville condominium complex.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with some of those displaced residents today.
I thought she put up decorations, so I got a little closer. I realized that's not a decoration.
This is video that Dana Bourne shot of the fire that broke out just around 7:45 Wednesday night. Just a few doors down from where she lives at Cedar Springs Condominiums.
Within the 30 seconds of us finding the fire, the windows started to crack and hiss and howl like a teapot. And then they just burst through. So it was surreal.
Bourne says she didn't waste any time, grabbing a fire extinguisher before going around and banging on the doors of her building to let others know there was a fire, all while her husband called 911.
We were able to evacuate the rest of the entire building F, so quickly, before even the fire department was here.
Melissa Wahlberg lives right next door to where this happened.
So I came home, and not fun to see. My first then concern was my neighbor, if she was home or if she wasn't.
Wahlberg tells Fox 13 News she was at work at the time when she got a call from someone who was worried Wahlberg's home might also be on fire. That wasn't the case, but Wahlberg says she has plenty of damage.
Water damage, smoke, the smell is horrendous. And the firefighters, I know that they're doing their job, but I've got 2 major holes in my ceiling.
Both Wahlberg and Bourne tell me the woman that was killed in the blaze had lived in the unit for a little more than a year. They say she was in her 50s, very quiet, and kept to herself most of the time.
It's really unfortunate. It's damaged. It's life was lost.
It's an incident Bourne says could have possibly been even worse.
How bad the fire would have been before we saw it, or if we saw it. What if we came home and went to bed?
Well, as for residents like Wahlberg, she was actually packing up her car and getting ready to go down to Salt Lake when I spoke with her earlier today to stay with her parents until her unit is fixed. Now, I also spoke with Chief Mike Hansen with South Davis Metro Fire earlier today, and he says the cause of this fire is under investigation and that they aren't releasing the name of that victim at this time. In Centerville, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
That's the way this is going to happen. It's going to be everyone doing their part, and collectively we'll be able to address the lake.
Some big new initiatives are trying to save the Great Salt Lake.
Utah's powerful Speaker of the House held another summit today to explore solutions to bring the lake back from the brink of collapse.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has the latest from Ogden.
There will be some painful steps that we need to take.
In a packed ballroom, lawmakers,
Relatively flat-lined
environmentalists, and industry stakeholders discussed the situation facing the Great Salt Lake and ideas to help save it.
We are already seeing ecosystem collapse happening at Great Salt Lake.
The lake is already at a historic low, and projections are for less water for people and the Great Salt Lake in the coming decades.
Climate change is evident. Growth is a real thing. We have unpredictability with future, rain and other precipitation. So yeah, we need to change things.
House Speaker Brad Wilson announced he worked out a deal to get some local water districts to send 30,000 acre feet more downstream into the lake to help with balancing the salinity. That's to protect the ecosystem.
I would say this is just a start, and I think they would agree that this is a start, but it's something that they could commit to on short notice to help deal with an acute issue.
State leaders are exploring a wide variety of options. Utah's Department of Natural Resources would like to expand cloud seeding capabilities. But the crowd was told the price tag for a pipeline from the Pacific Ocean to the Great Salt Lake is anywhere from $60 to $100 billion, making it more of a pipe dream.
Conservation has to be our first choice across the board, period. Not only does it have to be our first choice, it's actually the most cost-effective choice. And so before we get to where we're spending tens of billions of dollars building pipes somewhere, let's do conservation. Let's do 100% conservation.
Some lawmakers are already drafting more bills on conservation, as Utahns will have to use less water.
We got to do water-wise landscaping. We're not going to have non-functional turf. We can still have trees and shrubs and some turf. Homeowners can still have some turf, but we need to limit it in new construction.
Speaker Wilson also announced a new initiative to help people do more to conserve.
We are putting all this effort and investment into conservation, and Utah residents should expect that effort results in more water that they save flowing to the Great Salt Lake.
It's never been more urgent to deliver water to this lake to slow the rising salinity and preserve this ecosystem. And if we can do that, we're going to preserve the many other beneficial uses that the lake offers us as well.
Now, a lot of those initiatives, bills, and funding will be run through next year's legislative session. In Ogden, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
With brand new inflation numbers, we decided to find out how many people around us are having trouble affording food for their families, and we'll show you.
And clear skies will lead to another cool night, but warm days and fabulous colors. Here's a great shot today of Mill Creek Canyon. We'll have your full forecast coming up after the break.
There was tough news from the federal government today. Inflation is up 8.2% from a year ago.
Tonight, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth goes in depth on how Utah families are experiencing and dealing with high prices.
Today, we look at one of the daily necessities, food, and how many Utah families have enough. It doesn't get more basic than that, and we have reliable numbers from the Census Bureau showing that inflation has taken food off of Utah tables. If you have kids at home, you especially want to provide them with food that you choose. And 1 year ago in September, 74% of Utah families said no problem. They could put food on the table the way they want to. 1 year later, 20% more families with kids are having some trouble affording food. Utah matches the nation when it comes to how many of us often go hungry. It's 3%. But it's households with children that suffer more. Nationally, the percentage of all households often missing meals is the same as the percentage of households with children. In Utah, we double our number. 6% of households with children often go hungry. With so many families, that means an estimated 23,000 households with children often don't have enough to eat. It's important that we keep using that word households. 23,000 households with children often can't afford food. And that means the number of people in those households is likely to top 100,000 in Utah alone. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The largest Social Security increase in decades, what it means to people here in Salt Lake.
Coming up in sports, we'll hear from the Utes as they continue to honor Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, and BYU quarterback Jaron Hall on his status this week. And we'll hear from Jazz center Udoka Azubuike after his first practice in 7 months. Will he play tomorrow?
Well, you know this, inflation is hitting all of us, and that includes vulnerable older Americans. But An announcement from the federal government just today could help relieve some of that stress.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi was at the Mill Creek Senior Center today talking to people about the impact of bigger Social Security checks.
I think it will help a lot of people to be able to live a little bit better.
Mary Mahoney is 82 years old. She's talking about the federal government announcing an 8.7% increase in Social Security benefits in 2023, the highest in decades.
It's a good part of my income, not total, but a good part of it. And a raise in the Social Security will be advantageous to me, definitely.
The Social Security Administration says this 8.7% cost of living adjustment would add over $140 per month per wallet for the most common type of benefit. This year, a retired worker would make $1,681 per month, but next year could make $1,827.
Individuals who live on a fixed income obviously have a lot of challenges that they face, particularly in meeting their basic needs. And so this increase in the Social Security benefit, I think, is really going to be a small but important impact.
Afton January with Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services says for older adults here locally, many of them rely solely on Social Security.
A lot of individuals do have the good fortune of being able to save for retirement and have a generous retirement package waiting for them when they stop working. However, many individuals don't have that because they didn't go to college, or they worked in a lower income field, or they were a housewife who are now relying on the Social Security that a spouse left for them.
I can remember when I was young, my grandfather telling me very seriously, "Mary, you'll see the day when eggs are $1 a dozen." I wish I could chat with him about that right now.
But as helpful as these increases might be, Mary says it's not a solution.
I think doing more to decrease inflation would help out a lot better. To just keep raising and raising and raising everything, where's the ceiling?
Her advice to her 20 grandchildren, save while you can to set yourself up to retire comfortably.
You can't depend on Social Security to live on when you're done working. If you don't prepare yourself to have other income, you can't survive on Social Security.
In Mill Creek, I'm Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
What a gorgeous day today.
Today, how about yesterday?
And yesterday.
Every day.
And tomorrow.
And
too.
tomorrow.
All the time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Dina, so nice to see you here tonight, filling in for Allison. Filling in for Breck, who is filling in for Allison.
Hey, whatever. We've got a great team here on Utah's Weather Authority. And of course, you can go over to our Facebook page and share pictures with us. Here's one of East Canyon today. Wow, the color is just exceptional. And it's really great all across the Wasatch and in the southern portion of Utah as well. It is just beautiful. What a nice night. Cooling off with clear skies, 62 degrees, calm winds. And Kelly, as you were mentioning earlier, we haven't had a lot of wind events this fall, so all the leaves are still on the trees and haven't been blown up, and they're just glorious out there. Now, our normal high today is 67. We were at 74, so a little bit above average for sure, and we'll stay that way as we go through the weekend here. It's 62 now in Salt Lake, 47 in Park City, cooling off, definitely up high, already down to 49 in Eden, in the Cache Valley, cooling off to the 50s there. Logan, 55 degrees, 47 over in Ely, and 78 in St. George. So a nice night. It's going to be more of the same gorgeous weather for about the next 7 days here. Going into the night here, clear skies. Overnight lows will be in the upper 40s in Salt Lake. So definitely chilly in the morning, but then sunshine and gorgeous weather in the day. Clear skies all around. You're not just looking at a blank map. I mean, sort of, kind of. It is actually a time lapse of nothing. So we do have clear skies all the way to the Pacific coast here. So great weather. We're expecting a big ridge of high pressure to just camp out. And when you get these big ridges, you just don't get a lot of mixing or a lot of cloud cover. So pretty quiet, dry northwest flow continues all the way into Friday through Sunday and beyond. So overnight, we've got clear skies, nice weather, 39 in Park City tonight, 42 in Price, and 56 in St. George. So cool weather if you're getting ready to go camping in some of our beautiful Red Rock country this weekend. It will be cool overnight, but glorious in the daytime. 76 in Salt Lake, 68 tomorrow in Park City, and 71 degrees in Vernal. Of course, just beautiful weather to do anything, even if you're just staying home and hanging around in your neighborhood. It's going to be a great weekend. 88 degrees in St. George for tomorrow. That's on Friday, at 80 in Kanab. Southern Utah, you've got beautiful weather through the weekend. Lots of sunshine here. A little bit of an increase in cloud cover as you go into Sunday. An area of low pressures off to your south. Doesn't really give you any active precipitation at all, just some clouds. And in the Wasatch Front, temperatures stay in the 70s all weekend long. Our lucky number really is about 75 every day. And temperatures in the evenings or overnights will be in the upper 40s to around 50. So great fall weather and a beautiful fall weekend ahead.
The Utah football team will continue to honor Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe on Saturday night against USC. The Utes wore special helmets with the faces of Jordan and Lowe, who died in shootings about a year apart from each other. Provide some extra meaning to an important game.
Hopefully it makes us all dig deeper and really look to go for that 22% and just play like they played, and hard and physical, and just attack everything, and just hopefully we get that type of atmosphere from it and feel from the team.
Those guys are the reason why our culture has changed, and why we practice so hard, why we work so hard, because we understand that this is a brotherhood. And you know, when you lose one of your brothers, that's something that's very hard to overcome, but we overcame that last year. So I feel like this game will be a very good reminder to us of, you know, the bigger picture, and I feel like it will rally us together to be closer as a brotherhood.
Fox 13 anchor Kelly Chapman spoke with the artist who painted the helmets. She'll have more on this story on Saturday night, right after the game. Kickoff set for 6 o'clock. You can watch the top 25 matchup between Utah and USC right here on Fox 13, followed by Fox 13 News at 9 with complete coverage live from Rice Eccles Stadium. Well, BYU quarterback Jaren Hall looked great at times this season, but didn't have his best game in the loss to Notre Dame last week. He was not 100% healthy in that game, but he's practiced all week long and is feeling much better going into Saturday's game against Arkansas.
He was banged up from the Utah State game and didn't practice really at all last week, and then I thought in the game it definitely wasn't his best game. He played like a guy who didn't practice. You know, I think he still made some great plays that gave us a chance, especially in the second half. But you know, practice reps are important, and fortunately this week he hasn't missed any reps this week.
Practice every day, been back to it. You know, it's mid-season, everyone gets dinged up. I was dinged up, you know, a couple weeks ago, and you know I've been battling through that, but I feel a lot better this week. Have more practice reps, and you know I'm confident for this Saturday.
Udoka Azubuike practiced today with the Jazz for the first time after he had ankle and foot surgery in March. The third-year center will not play in the final preseason game tomorrow against the Mavericks, but he feels healthy and ready to go.
It felt good. You know, it felt good. You know, just like today, Philly, you know, he told me, he was like, yeah, you're going to have some reps and practice. You know, I was kind of excited about it. And then we did some exercise in the morning before practice. It felt good. You know, me going out there, getting the rep in, I'm excited. It really felt good.
So the last preseason game tomorrow, then the season starts next week.
Wow, you know, it's tough to make a team, though, when you're not playing. I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because the Jazz are still needing to cut, right?
Yeah, they got to cut 2 more players before the start of the season, so Udoka doesn't want it to be him.
No, I don't want it to be him.
Of course
He's
not.
feeling great.
Give him a shot.
Let him play. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9.
Don't go anywhere. Quickcast is next.